Ladies and gentlemen, the day we have all been waiting for years is finally here. At the age of posting this video, the highly anticipated Kerbal Space Program 2 has finally entered early access. Developed by the Star Theory Games and published by Private Division, it was released in early access today, February 24, 2023. A day that will live in infamy as the day the 3080 graphic card has become the minimum recommended spec for 1440p gameplay. So, I guess if you're watching this review, you would like to know, how is it? Short answer is, it's not finished, but it's good. You can expect moments where you will be wondering how it ever passed the QA. You can expect the moments where you will be outright disappointed and angry. You can expect moments where your graphics card will catch fire and the only thing that will extinguish it will be your tears of watching your frame rate plummet to the levels you have never thought your computer would spit out. But most of all, you can expect the moments of wonder, butterflies in the stomach and tears of sheer joy that can only be brought by standing on a brand new world and sticking your agency's flag as your Kerbal salutes with pride. This is a feeling like no other, and to this day there was only one game in my 40-ish year gaming career that was able to invoke it, Kerbal Space Program 1. So does KSP have those moments as well? Hell yes, and plenty. However, at this moment they are buried deep below countless bugs, performance issues, crashes and frustrations that you will for sure encounter if you played day one of early access. Few days ago, I had graciously received an advanced copy of KSP2 by the developers to familiarize myself with the game, get impressions and bring you my view and opinion of whether this game is for you. I have sunk well over 20 hours in building small orbital rockets, amazing looking planes that fly like a dream, and a big Duna mission where I got my Kerbal stranded on the surface of Duna, rescue efforts pending. So I feel that I can say with full confidence that despite the obvious and many issues the game will face on its day one of early access release, KSP2 has managed to capture that sensation of wonder and excitement where I daydream about building another craft and plotting my next adventure. The passion of the development team for this game seeps from every pore of the game and can be found in the smallest of details. From the wheels producing different sounds on the tarmac versus the ground surface, to the launch countdown sequence involving water deluge system followed by the igniters, only to be deafened by the mighty roar of the real rocket. If you look really hard, you will even see that the engines have a tiny flameout animation when you shut them down abruptly. I feel that at this point it would be good to address the performance issues you guys have been hearing about. Yes, the game is a performance hog, and you will indeed see the frame rates of 20 to 60 FPS, but I have my own suspicions regarding it. My theory is that the majority of the unreasonably high requirements for the EA release come from extremely demanding physics calculation being performed by an unoptimized code. I heard Nate Simpson in one of his interviews state the following about his view of the process. Get it working, get it performant, and then get it moddable. My take on it is that at this point, the devs are wrapping up the phase 1, get it working, and are beginning the long process of getting it performant. So, before you grab your torches and your pitchforks, hear me out. This is good news. Why? Because despite the popular belief that your GPU will melt under load, I'm not 100% sure of that. I have run some tests and have observed cases where the game was running at 20 to 35 FPS while GPU was only at 60% load and the CPU being 23% loaded. My config and PC spec is not super beefy, but I'm running a few years old RTX 2080 non-TI and an i7 10700K with a 64 gigs of RAM, and for me in 1080p the game was pretty playable. If I did not go over 100 or 150 part count limit, that is. Now, I know that 100 part count doesn't sound like a lot for the KSP, but if you assume there are new super large parts to be used that can reduce the overall part count, I have found that I was able to conjure a decent Duna mission without turning my KSP2 playthrough into a PowerPoint presentation. My take on the subject is that after several optimization passes, the both minimum and recommended configurations will be lowered eventually. So if KSP2 is your only reason to upgrade your computer, you might want to hold off on that decision due to also the second reason. As I said, the game is not ready. At this point, KSP2 in early access offers a lot less than KSP1 did at its 0.90 release on Steam when I started playing it. The science is not there, as well as the modding capability. These features will be coming, but for now we are getting a bare bones experience. Compared to the KSP1 stock, KSP looks much more beautiful and interesting. Planets are no longer these dull spheres that only have one or two distinctive service features in entirety. And while yes, many will argue that KSP1 today can look equally beautiful with the mods like environmental visual enhancements, scatterer and parallax, you'll have to remember that it's just that, modded. Hundreds of community members have spent thousands of hours building that, so at this point I don't feel it's a fair comparison. So without all that taken into account, you might be asking, why would anyone want to get the early access on KSP2 at the day one? It's a good question, which only I can answer from my point of view. I'm a die-hard fan of KSP, and KSP2 captures that feeling, that sensation of landing on the new worlds and of its predecessor, and it does so pretty amazingly. It woke in me the thirst for exploration, and it has captured my thoughts that while making this review, I'm still planning my next escapade into the void. Also, if you consider, like with every early access, you're buying into a promise that the game when finished will have science, interstellar travel, colonies, automated routes, and finally multiplayer. However, this can only be done if we, as a community, put our pitchforks aside and instead of writing useless negative comments, we embrace the constructive criticism and help developers with our suggestions, showing them where the problems are and how they could be resolved and the overall experience improved. Not so long ago, there was an epic story of the game promising the universe, but delivering overall bland experience at its launch. I'm of course talking about No Man's Sky, a game that has to this day served as a redemption example of the highest magnitude. This is something that needs to be taken into account here. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we should just accept what has been sold here for a pretty steep price of $50-ish. I'm saying that the developers have given us the chance to mold this diamond in the rough to its full potential. Kerbal Space Program has one of the most positive and most incredible communities I have yet witnessed, and the game is at its early access release in much better state than No Man's Sky was, and I have no doubt that the developers are passionate enough to make the KSP2 a game that will be going strong, perhaps even much longer than its predecessor. With that being said, if you have any concerns about the performance, or the bugs, or the initial set of features, maybe the best option for you is to wait and see. Also, there is always the option to buy it, try it, and as long as you have not exceeded more than 2 hours of gameplay and 14 days since your last purchase, you can always refund it on Steam. I, for sure, will be playing both KSP and the KSP2 for a good time to come, and I know it will only get better in time. Now, if you will excuse me, I have to go and rescue Valentina, who has gotten herself spinning attached to a small satellite in the orbit of Duna. Thanks for watching.